Yinyin, welcome to Stories in AI. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ganesh. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I know we've been trying to do this for a long time, and you've been really busy building out your new company, which I want to talk all about. But I want to really focus our discussion on this notion that you and I talked about earlier too, on how do you build, AI is such a powerful technology and it's, creating a lot of innovations around the world. But what does it mean for the actual end user, the consumer, and how can we solve that for the benefit of the consumer, right? So that's the theme of today. So thanks again for taking the time. But before we begin, Yinyin, tell us about your personal story. Tell us your journey into AI. How did you land up in AI? The whole works.
Happy to. I started my AI career from doing machine learning research at Qualcomm Research. At the time, I focused on transforming a lot of the machine learning advances into technologies in the mobile space. Later, I started working on building AI hardwares for a deep learning startup called Nervana. Nervana became part of Intel, and I started leading data science at Intel AI. Looking at this transition of my career from AI research, AI hardware, and later building AI product services and data science, I think mostly driven by several things that really guided my decisions. One is to always focus on solving some problems, even though that problem seems impossible at the time to solve. And secondly is amazing learning opportunities to work on cutting edge technologies. And thirdly is always about the incredibly talented and passionate people that I can work with and learn from. And when I was at Nervana, we wanted to build AI hardware, which was one of the first at the time, and also seems impossible. And we did a lot of hard work and later transitioned into building this whole AI platform, including AI hardware and software, and also data science solutions. And later, when I was working at Intel with partners from all kinds of domains, including energy and finance and retail, entertainment, just to name a few, I further realized that a lot of the companies really struggle with a few things when they try to incorporate AI into their business and into their products. I think one thing is always about how to incorporate AI into the products that have already been in the market for a while, when the AI and the data strategy are more like an afterthought. Secondly, it's about how can you really gain users' trust using this AI-driven solutions. And I think that as a result, then we know AI can do a lot of things, but even for really powerful and resourceful enterprises and big service providers, they struggle with incorporating AI into their daily product every day. And at the same time that I also worked on a lot of effort that with other organizations bringing different voices together, looking at AI ethics, accountability and transparency, AI safety. And I have always been a big advocate into resolving all these AI issues and to unlock the full potentials and really bring positive impact to the human and society. I think further through this career experiences, I felt like I wanted to do something that is complementary to all the AI ethics works and the transparency work, but also equally important, inspired by what I've witnessed from the enterprise struggles, is that how we can build a company to have a holistic process to connect technology and the business and the users since the very beginning, and really laid out the right strategy of AI and the data and your users' intentions and users' objectives since the beginning. And that's why we co-founded XOKind and started building the technology and products at XOKind.
That is awesome. And you have a PhD in machine learning as well, right? From Ohio University, if I'm right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so and it's a fascinating background because you work across the entire stack of AI, all the way from the applications to now building consumer applications that can be utilized and used by consumers themselves, to industry applications across those verticals you mentioned, to building the foundational libraries and infrastructure, to the silicon all the way down, right? It's just, you have a very interesting vantage point across the stack and, with your experience. So tell me about XOKind. What are you trying to do at XOKind? And, how did that journey come about? You were happy after Nervana at Intel, and how did this come about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I mentioned, as a part of my career transition, that I witnessed a lot of the struggles of building AI into products and bring that closer to users. And so that was the inspiration of building XOKind, because we believe that it's about time to bring the AI technology closer to the consumer applications and really solve a lot of the pain points that the consumer is experiencing every day. And at the same time, building that holistic process, as I mentioned, to really bring business, technology, and the users and the user experience together since the beginning. So at XOKind, we believe the next level of AI agents can drive this next wave of enhancement to in quality of life by automating a lot of tedious and time-consuming tasks for consumers, and as a result, to improve user experience while always being on user side. I think we wanted to create this extraordinary kinds of AI agents. That's why we're called XOKind, and also bring more kindness to the world. A little bit story behind the name. What we're building at XOKind is that on the high level, this more capable, more thoughtful, more trustworthy AI agents. But now we're starting from a domain in travel, because we have seen a lot of very fragmented experience and the manual and the tedious process today users are experiencing when they do travel planning and booking. And looking at all the cutting edge technologies and AIs, we felt like we wanted to solve this pain point and really bring this together into holistic solutions for users and build this next stage of travel planning all the way into daily task planning and life planning with our next generation of AI agents.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And Yinyin, I have this, so I've been in AI and data related businesses for more than a decade now. And throughout the career, we've all been in working with, if you see the leading indicators or the leading adopters of complex technology, it's always the big businesses and stuff. And they try to then pass that on to the end users. And, AI is a similar thing. AI is a core technology, and we both know has the potential to completely transform the way we live and experience life, right? But that said, most of the experiences that we all gain today that is powered by AI is always for the benefit of a commercial entity. That's an unfortunate truth of the way the incentive model works. And so one of my longer term predictions to make it happen, right? Also, I want to actually contribute to making that vision and future happen. Is as individuals today, we are dependent on human structures and societal structures and people to make anything, to create companies, organizations, and a living around yourself. But you can have the choice to use intelligent agents to actually do it. Like my dream job is, as a founder, I want to start a company where I love people, but then it's all intelligent agents, right? The people are doing what they're really good at, meeting people, customers, telling stories and stuff. And almost everything else is just done by hyper-automated agents that just do it, the intelligent agent that do it for us. So you're bringing that vision to life with XOKind and focusing on travel, as you said. Give me a little bit of perspective on how do you see the user side of the story, right? How do users view AI today? Right? Do they just look at it as smart technology only in the hands of the elite technology companies? Do they see this as a great career option for me to go build machine learning systems and make money? Or is there broader than that? Everybody kind of the narrative for AI had been primarily driven by Hollywood for the last, decade or so. But that's changing. It's getting more and more practical and real. So how do users view these powerful technologies today?
Yeah, what you said really resonated quite a bit with our inspirations and our missions. And speaking of how users view AI and AI agents today, there were quite a few studies in the year of 2019 from Economist, Harvard Business Review, that more than 75 or 80% of the users, when they look at AI-driven recommendations, they feel like it's not trustworthy, it's not for them, it's a black box, and overall they just don't want to take it. And I think that in order to really bring these type of AI technologies closer to users, there are several problems that we have to resolve and find the right balance in order to bring the technology in a thoughtful way, in a helpful way, and to augment the user's decision-making process, but not to replace them. So that actually speaks to a lot of the decisions that we have to make as a company on the business side, on the technology side, and more importantly, on the product experience side, how we can combine these different considerations from users and concerns from user, and actually bring this technology into the products with thoughtful touch points, so that user can actually find it helpful rather than intrusive, and find it very clear rather than very black box type of process. And to elaborate a little bit more, I think in the travel space, we have done extensive user research and user interview to understand their pain point in travel and also beyond travel. I think we discovered probably two themes that we felt like every consumer is experiencing, and that's where the technology and product can help more. One of the theme is about information overload. I think everyone, whenever you do some type of research, looking for a place to eat, looking for a place to stay, you go through 20, 30 different links on a website, and on different websites. A lot of the good content are really interesting and compelling, but they're not actionable. You cannot book right there. And a lot of the inventory sites that they are very actionable, but you don't find very useful information to guide you to make that decision. So at XOKind, when we look at technology and the product experience, we really wanted to surface a lot of the options for user, considering their preferences and their considerations, but after a lot of information synthesis, a lot of information aggregation, so that we bring the travel content from the editorial side closer to the inventory side. And so user can look at all these different options and make their judgment. And of course, that a lot of the natural language processing under the hood is for that goal. Not necessarily we have to talk about how we use it, how we do the cutting edge NLP, because to the user, what it matters is that we surface the relevant information in the most digestible way for them to look, and then they feel like their decision-making process is being facilitated, not being replaced. So that is information overload. And the second piece is about today, especially in travel, but also in many aspects of everyone's life, there are a lot of small tasks that people have to do manually. That takes a lot of time. It's very tedious. And we wanted to really bring together and stitch these small tasks in a way that is more automated. For example, in the travel planning domain, especially when you build a longer itineraries, and how these itineraries how these stops can fit together as a good itinerary from location, time, and all kinds of perspective. It's a pretty big optimization process. And today, users have to do that optimization process themselves. But we have a lot of algorithm and optimization techniques can really help user with that. So inside Una, which is our travel product, and also when we build the technology, we really try to bring a lot of these pieces in order to provide this type of hyper automations, so that user can feel like it used to be 10 different things that they have to take care of manually. But today, with one push of a button in our product, this process is done and being explained. So I think that is from users' perspective, how we can gradually gain user trust and make them feel like AI agents are being very helpful, and then build that affinity and trust over time.
No, it's fascinating, and the way you actually describe it is like the user trust, the information overload problem, and then the automation problem, right? Which is like you have a lot of micro tasks, which are usually not really useful. You're not going to gain any fulfillment out of running those tasks, right? You just those are things you want to automate. So that makes perfect sense. But on the trust itself, right? Half of the problem with trust, like when the example you gave about like searching for something for like travel, for example, but half of the problem in trust is you don't believe the incentive of the other person who's delivering you. It's not so much that when I go to google.com and search for something, I almost 100% know that I'm not getting the most relevant results. I'm getting the most paid for results, which means it is optimized for an ad algorithm, right? And I get the hits. Yes, there is a search relevance score and things, SEO and stuff too. But the reality is, whoever is going to bid and get placement higher up the stack, I'm going to see their information up front, right? And that to me is, yes, it's an information overload problem, but the trust issue comes in even before. It's not, can I believe the recommendation? That's one part of it. Do I even trust the party who's giving me the recommendation? Don't you think, right? So there's that element too. But it's actually fascinating. You're solving that with Una Travel, right? That's the name of the app. Correct?
Right, exactly. What you said about the misalignment between organizations' business goal versus the user's goal, that is a really fundamental issue before we can talk about building trust, right? Because I think the foundation of having any level of trust is that this alignment of objectives and goals and intent from the business and from the user. And that's how user can feel like the business is building solutions for them. That's why as a company, any company has to make the decisions on what is your business model? How do you build your business priorities? How do you build your technology priorities in order to align with the user's goal? Today, when you use search engines, or if you use some sites that the content is mostly driven by business partnerships, then user is feeling that lack of trust because they can see ads and promotions everywhere. So I think that as a company that we have to really build up this mission that in order to build our definition of the next level of AI agents, the goal for these AI agents is to help users to get the job done, not get users' attention span. And this single thing about getting job done became the guiding principles for a lot of things. And so that we want, in the example of travel planning, the job to be done is user can find the things that they find suitable for their trip and they can finish the booking. And if that is the single job to be done, then the content should not be driven by ads or by promotions or any business partnership. It should be all driven by that single goal. And as long as we follow that goal and really make user understand that anything built by Una, anything built by a company like this, would be something that they can trust for the long term.
That is, you touched upon a lot of very interesting things, right? The fundamental question of how do you build user trust when you're building consumer products, right? And I like the two things that you said there. One is the alignment of intent and, including incentives for that matter. You're defining your business model in a way saying, look, I'm not going to give users a great experience but then use their data to go sell and, show them ads and, get their attention span and then make money out of that, right? That's one way, aligning by business model. And I think it's it's a very critical point you're making, because this is a fundamental question. Anybody building an AI product or an AI powered business or any kind of data products, if you will, they have to make this trade-off in terms of defining the business model. And often it's easy to say that I'll just give a great experience and then I'll monetize on the other end, because users don't really care, especially building a consumer product. That is changing. But the second thing you mentioned was actually even more nuanced, and so true for any products you're building for consumer, which is the classic product management framework of jobs to be done. How do you apply that to this? And in this case, it doesn't matter that you earlier mentioned, it doesn't matter they're using cutting edge NLP algorithms. It doesn't matter that the user is, trying to peripherally get attracted by so many different things. And no, they are trying to get something done, find that something to be done, and then do that very well, right? So, bring it home for me in terms of what else do you do to gain user trust? So one is definitely alignment of intent. Second is jobs to be done. Just get it done for them. What else can you do? From that perspective?
Yeah, I think that the part to bring home is that as a company, we're building a product, and a good product is this perfect blend or convergence of business strategies and technologies, user experience, but ultimately build for users. So at the beginning, user experience is one pillar out of the three. But now if we wanted to build this product for user, then the user experience actually is the most critical pillar and the foundational piece for us to make a lot of sustainable, actionable product decisions. I think for that, first of all, we wanted to build a fresh perspective on how to build a user-first AI products. We don't want it to, as you said, we don't want it to keep talking about AI and technology, because consumers care about getting things done. So we drive everything from extensive user research, building target user personas, understand their pain point, and validate a lot of our learnings through this process. We adopt a process called the design sprint. So it tightly couple a lot of the user signals and validating through users throughout our whole product definition process. And even today, that as we're making very frequent product releases and incremental improvements, every time that we bring user into our process and understand how they understand our new features, and if this is really resonating their pain points and helping them to get the job done faster. I think that is one side of the product process that we are doing very consistently. Second of all is that once we know these pain points from users, how do we translate that into technology and innovation directions? I think that as a company, we wanted to definitely make sure that we invest and package the right technology in a way that user can feel like the problem is being solved. Whatever technology that is underlying that solution probably doesn't matter to user, but to us, it really becomes the guiding principles for us to understand what is the right technology to invest and how to package that into a holistic solution rather than just the technology component itself. The third part is about when we try to build, especially personalizations and recommendations, having the technology being very explainable, and we even try to explain why this thing is being recommended to you. For example, why this hotel is being recommended to you. And even today inside the product, you look at one of the dialogue, it will tell you very clearly that this hotel, because is pet friendly, is near the restaurant you pick, is near the convention center you pick. So there are a lot of reasonings behind that. And the user can really see what is driving that prioritization of the content. And over the time, they can build their trust. I think definitely that to bring home together all these different considerations and inspirations, having that perfect convergence and blend from the user experience, the problem to solve, the job to be done is really critical.
Awesome. And Yinyin, what is, if I may ask, what is the business model for XOKind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today we're making revenue out of the commissions of the booking. So as I said, that the job to be done is to finish planning and booking. So whenever user feels happy with the experience in Una and they put together all the options in terms of accommodations and flights and reservations together into an itinerary for them to go on, the bookable items that we provide currently in the product will give us the commissions, which is a existing business model in some of the travel products. And this is what we're following. There is no ads, there is no other business partnerships.
That is awesome. That's actually, that the whole, the affiliate model, right? Where you're actually doing the referrals. And I mean, I don't know whether you're seeing this, but there is one of the foundational elements for this whole decentralized future as a very useful business model is that, right? Where you're adding value to a journey for a customer, for a brand. Well, you should also be incentivized to promote that, and you should be, compensated for that. So, to me, it's like a natural thing. Affiliate models it's the way to go. So, congrats on that. That's pretty awesome. Let me switch gears and ask you about your journey in life as a data scientist. You were a data scientist at Intel. You led the data science group at Intel. And you built a career out of data science, right? We're still very early in machine learning and data-driven machine learning in the industry today. What's your advice to people looking at data science and machine learning and just being in AI as a career choice, either as a technologist or a data scientist, or just a business person who wants to come into it? What's your advice for them?
Yeah, I'm happy to go down the memory lane and really think through the decisions I've made and a lot of the important learnings I have acquired over the years. I think becoming a machine learning engineer and data scientist, that requires a lot of creativity, because oftentimes the problem to solve is very open-ended. As a data scientist, you need to look at the data, but the goal is to be able to tell a story out of that data. So how you manipulate the data, what methods you're using, in the end, probably don't matter that much, because what matters in the end to bring business impact is that story you can extract out of the data. So I think that with that thinking, oftentimes when you acquire more data science skills, when you look at your data science opportunities, being able to focus on the problem to solve and focus on what story to tell out of the data or the problem you're looking at is the top priority for you. And just don't focus on the data or the exact methods themselves. Those are your toolbox. But as a data scientist, the goal is always to solve a business problem and to tell the right story from your data. Secondly, I think being a data scientist, I think is tremendously useful to work very closely with product managers. As I said, that there are a lot of enterprises really struggle bringing AI technology into their product processes, because you need to bring all these different voices together and put that thinking about data and about AI potentials into your product designs since day one. And further, to fully embed all your data thinkings and AI thinkings throughout your product and engineering process as a part of the framework. A lot of companies talk about it requires 80% of the resource to work on data cleaning, data engineering. I think that was also an unfortunate side effect that if you didn't have your data strategy the right way since day one. And as a result, you have to clean your data and manipulate your data. So whenever you work on a product as a data scientist, work closely with your product managers and really be part of that process of driving your product strategy and having the right data at the right place so that you can solve your problem using AI at the right time. Thirdly, I think being a data scientist in the field of AI, everything is moving rapidly. and every day you have thousands of things to learn or to pick up. But also, I think it's a really exciting space to be in because of all these exciting changes. So definitely take your time, just build your data science toolbox over time. Today, if you go to GitHub, search for data science tools, there are tremendous amount of resource there for data scientists to pick up, and also a lot of really close and helpful communities to help all kinds of data scientists. So I would say that really invest your time to build your data science toolbox and build your communities over time.
That is awesome. In fact, you touched upon a lot of things there. Like one, and if I may summarize, right, one is like focusing on problem solving and honing up that skill on one hand, to moving from, just being very conscientious of what is the output of this going into as an input for, like the product mindset, working with your PMs, the business outcome, the observability. And then, you also mentioned like the toolkit, right? You build your toolkit over time and you engage with the community. I like to say with data science, right, like there's a lot of focus, fortunately, unfortunately, right now, you got to start somewhere. So budding data scientists, they're all about trying to learn a lot of frameworks and trying to actually have a lot of runtime working with different frameworks, which is great because I think that is, that's important and relevant. But it is like saying, I want to learn, like, it was, I think I heard Elon Musk say this sometime, right? If you want to learn about a car's engine, you don't start off thinking, hey, this is a screwdriver. I should use it to turn clockwise versus anti-clockwise. And here's a wrench. And so you start by taking the engine apart. And then you actually say, oh, how do I take it apart? I need a screwdriver, right? So it's the tools become the way you're solving the problem than trying to learn the tools in itself, right? There's a few things you mentioned. I want to just augment what you said. One is, again, this focus on solving problems, and data science, more than anything, machine learning or data science is the art and the science of iteratively solving really complex business problems, right? So don't lose sight of that. And then the other thing, you targeted the be close to the PMs. What we are seeing in the businesses today in B2B scenarios and companies is data scientists churn out machine learning models. It goes into production, it goes somewhere, but there's a lack of visibility on how it impacts the user, the benefit to the business, and so forth. So that whole chain needs to be, be very wary of that and look at that as a way to stitch it together and be aware of that. And the last thing you mentioned around the community, I think data science also is one of those, just like crypto, for example, is very much optimized for community learning because things are changing so fast, right? Learn out in the open, right? Learn when you do something, to tweet it out, talk about it, engage a community to actually say, hey, here's what I did. Did I do anything right or wrong here? And you'll be surprised at the kind of response that we see when you start doing that. And anything, building in the open is the next big thing in terms of building startups even. So, no, thank you so much. This was actually really good advice for data scientists and stuff. Now, you are an immigrant female founder, right? And you've just started, your latest company. The biggest learning building startups and technology businesses so far. What has been your biggest learning so far?
Great question. As you might imagine, COVID really changed a lot of things and played a huge role in my experience being the first-time founder in this unprecedented time. As I mentioned that we wanted to build AI agents starting from travel domain, but travel domain is going through a lot of transitions and changes in the midst of COVID. And as a company that we really had to pivot in many different things, from having a good office in San Diego and having all our team members joining from across the country in Canada, and all of a sudden change into work from home every day for 18 months. And also from having the laser focus of building my company, but all of a sudden I have to really juggle with kids' school schedules and the different changes in my family. So definitely, I think the first time building a company is a lot harder than I thought because of COVID and many different reasons. But still, I think like the biggest learning from my experience is that I was driven by this problem to solve, and the problem still exists today. And I think that COVID or not COVID, it just changes a lot of the dynamic situation. But overall, as a founder, the most critical job is to always focus on your mission and also the people who share your vision and as a part of your mission. And the rest of things just flows from there. And I think that is really helped me to navigate through this past 18 months, building the company, building the product, working with the team at XOKind, and in the meantime, juggling a lot of uncertainties and a lot of other dynamic situations. I was heavily inspired by an article from Mark Anderson in the early 2020, right after COVID started. He wrote an article called "It's Time to Build," and I think it really resonated with the thesis and the mission I had in my mind while building XOKind. We felt like it was time to build this next generation of AI agents, and the things are changing, and there are different type of challenges in this experience. But overall, the problem is still there, and it is still time to build. And so as long as we focus on what we wanted to solve and focus on the product, and overall everyone is still having a great time through this experience.
That is awesome. Jobs to be done and have fun during that, right? So that's awesome.
Right.
Yinyin, do you have any questions for me?
What is your next step for the AI stories?
So, the good question. This started as a passion project, right? This was more from, I was having all this great conversation with, practitioners and leaders and business leaders putting AI to work everywhere. I felt the world needed to hear that, because what I found in general was there was a lot of content and videos and stuff, which was pure propaganda for saying, hey, here's what you should do. And here's my products for AI. And there was a lot of, here's the, picks and shovels about machine learning, right? Here's a Keras tutorial. Here's computer vision in a nutshell in 15 minutes, which was all very useful content everywhere. But the practical advice on how do I really leverage data and machine learning to build a business, a life for myself, a better experience, how do you answer all of that? So that's how we started the Stories in AI. I started about 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago. And I've been pretty blown away with the reception that I'm seeing. Like, people are really using it. I get questions. I get notes from folks that I haven't met or seen before saying, hey, I really enjoyed this conversation you had with this person. I'm trying to solve this problem. Can you connect me with somebody who can help me? So to me, the goal, the driving factor for me is, how do you really remove the 1% problem in AI and specifically in technology today, right? How do you democratize access to technology, the access to education, and access to just insights, right? If I have built a center of excellence for AI in a large organization and I, knocked my head 15 times, doing that for 5 years and lost a bunch of money, the next company trying to do that shouldn't have to go through the same learning again, right? But there's no forum that you can exchange that idea. So that's what we were thinking of Stories in AI. And so so I don't know what's next for Stories in AI. I really want to make sure that this will continue to remain a very passion project for me, while I'm building some other ventures on the side too. So it's exciting, and it's what keeps this motivating for me personally is having the opportunity to have conversations with people like you. This is awesome because I learn every time, and there are others who learn through this platform and this channel. So it's pretty awesome.
Love it. Love your story behind the stories of AI.
Thank you. So Yinyin, how can the viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Sure. Please come to our website, XOKind.com. And also today, if you go to App Store or Play Store, you can download this product called Una Travel, which is from XOKind. And definitely reach out to me, reach out to our team on how you think about travel, how you think about AI, user trust, and Una Travel, and let us know.
Awesome. If you really want AI, this powerful technology, to be your little Jarvis suit, your digital assistant, go check out Una Travel and XOKind. So no, I'll put that in the show notes as well. Yinyin, thank you so much for taking the time today. This was fascinating.